everybody except for me?
Is there a mute all function?
I think so. Or maybe it's only on my screen. That's all right. I got you. It is. All right, Michael, mute everybody. Ooh, I can hear myself. Creepy. Okay, so.
I can mute individually. I just can't. I don't see a mute all.
Well, that's all right. I got you. Bam. Okay, we'll begin right now. Welcome, everyone. We are back. This is our first event for August. We took you around the world last time, and now we're back in California at My Place Cafe in Pasadena. We are luckily, honorably, generously joined today by the owner, Latanya Smith. Excited to have her here. And today also marks the return, or maybe the reveal, of our very own editor-in-chief, Ghost Chad. So every chance you get, say hello. Say hi, Ghost Chad, who's now Human Chad, which is pretty cool. I would like to start off by welcoming everyone back to the far, far away, but further than ever virtual tour. We are here in Pasadena, of course. Next week, we're jumping up to the Bay Area, something very exciting. The area is very close to Chad, Michael, and I, and we'll speak more about it as the event goes on. I hope you are all happy, healthy, and warm. We have a great set of readers, special guests, of course. Chad, Ghost Chad, I'm going to say it every chance I get. We're happy he's here. If anyone watching and who follows us on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, if you would like to join us and participate, whether you're an artist, a dancer, a painter, a writer, whatever it is, email, send us a shout out. Ghosts at nervousghostpress.com, www.nervousghostpress, Twitter at nervousghosts, and Instagram at nervousghostpress. I have our little photo here I like to share with you with all of the information, of course. Follow us, like us, send us messages. Everything is encouraged. We appreciate it. We think it's fantastic to join all of our communities together to create a bigger community of artists, of writers, of loved ones, of family and friends. And let me stop this now. I would like to, share a little bit about us, of course. If you would like to learn more, Michael and I have an interview with the Chills at Will podcast available on Apple Podcasts or Ask Alexa. You can always log on to our social media or the website, say hello, read a little bit about what we do, why we do it, and who we are. And if you have questions, of course, for the Q&A afterwards, either for myself, for Chad, for Michael, for any of the readers, or just questions in general about what we're up to, what we will be up to, how our summers are going, and different writing projects, the book, and so on. Comment on YouTube. You can use the hashtag on Twitter or Instagram at hashtag NervousGhostAugust5. That is NervousGhostAugust5, or YouTube at NervousGhostLive. And with this, I'd like to introduce the very esteemed, very missed, and lovable, likable Ghost Chad.
Chad's back.
See, Chad, where am I?
Thank you for the introduction. That's quite the introduction. Like he said, I'm Ghost Chad, or the Human Chad. I also go by Chad Lutz. I'm a non-binary runner from Stowe, Ohio. I'm the editor-in-chief at Nervous Ghost Press. I studied creative writing with Michael and Matt at Mills College. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. This is my first event on this tour. I can't wait to hear everybody's work.
Awesome. Great to have Chad here. I don't know why. I don't know if anybody else is. I'm super excited to have Chad here. We're grateful that he's been working during the pandemic, during the whole thing. He's been keeping us afloat. He's been working hard where he is and for his community, and that's something that is admirable and that we are motivated and inspired by Chad, and it's super warming to have him back because, you know, I text him on email, Michael and Chad, all the time. And I'm sure at some point it starts to get annoying, but I'm still going to do it. And, you know, when he said he was available, that, you know, his work kind of, you know, let him off for this evening, I don't celebrate, but, you know, I may have had a fist bump here or there. And so, Michael, jump on in here and let's get started.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Nicholson. I am the managing editor at Nervous Ghost Press, and I am a visual writer, a visual storyteller. Even though I got my creative writing degree in prose in MFA, I actually am more of a scriptwriter, screenwriter, and an aspiring filmmaker. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be part of Nervous Ghost Press. I'm happy that Chad is here. They have been an inspiration for me also, writing-wise. And it's just good. It's just good to be alive right now. So thank you for having us. I want to introduce the venue owner, the rep, before we get into the speakers. And the venue we are at right now is in Pasadena, California. It is My Place Cafe. It is owned by Latanya Smith. And she actually, their venue is open right now for business. It was closed during COVID for a little bit, but the venue is great. They offer different art events, emceeing, open mics, all of that. So Latanya, if you want to introduce yourself and your place, take it away.
All right. Hello, I'm Latanya Smith, and I'm so honored that you guys brought me into this project. I had the opportunity to read some of the poetry in this fabulous book. And about the venue, it's My Place Cafe in Pasadena. It borders both Pasadena and Altadena. I have been the owner for almost a year, but it has been a long transition with COVID breaking up my little party here at the cafe, but everyone has began to come back. So I'm really grateful. We are known for our coffee. Jackie Robinson's son has a coffee bean farm in Ethiopia, and we get our coffee beans from Jackie Robinson's son. He also does some fair trade with a farm in Tanzania. So we get our beans both from those two locations. And then we have a local roaster in Arcadia who roasts the beans. So I feel pretty special that I get to have a great connection to Pasadena because Jackie Robinson lived in Pasadena. So that is a special treat. So if ever you guys are in the Pasadena area, I would love to have you. We have a little small food like oatmeal and waffles and bagels and pastries. So I am excited to be in this cafe business. I am totally a people person. I have been a teacher for 27 years. So I'm beginning to transition from teaching. So I'm in the cafe full time now that it's summer, but part-time during the school year. I'll be Zooming with the kids. I'm an elementary school teacher, and we are open daily from 7:30 to 1:30. It's going to get extended to 2:30 next week because the numbers for COVID has been looking better. So the city just lets me know on a weekly basis, like if I need to close early. But other than that, that's it. I'm just happy to be here.
Perfect. Latanya, who's that sitting next to you?
So this is Jesse. And Jesse is the person who pulled me into this project. He called me. Well, he came to the cafe and he was like, I love your cafe. Can we do an event here? And so I was like, of course. So he and I, for the last few months, have been preparing for this day, which we thought, of course, was going to be in person, but we quickly made the shift to virtual. And Jesse has been awesome with organizing all the moving parts.
Yeah, so hey everyone, and hello YouTube. I'm just here for a viewing party with Latanya, so you don't really have to mind me too much.
So, but he has been a great customer, I must tell you.
Thank you very much. Well, we're happy that you're part of this. We do wish that we were all in the flesh and we were in the same room together and we can hear each other's voices that way. But
Yeah.
this is the next best thing and this is necessary for us. So thanks again. I'm going to hand it over to Matt for a second.
Before I leave, is that one of the other reasons why I was so excited about this project is because I had already hosted a Monday night poetry group every first Monday of every month. And so you're going to get to meet my poetry person in a little bit, but I just wanted to say that I was already connected with poetry because of the events that we held in the cafe.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Latanya. We're happy to have you here. We're happy to bring the community together. It's something that Chad and Michael and I have always advocated for. And even though we're not able to be there in person, this is the next best thing, I think. You know, if there's something better, I'll try and find it. But I think this is, you know, in the situation that we're in, I think this is where we can still bring people together, bring all of our communities together, like I always say. And of course, everybody who's watching, everybody who will watch in the future as this gets uploaded, go buy a cup of coffee. Buy two, buy them for your parents, your friends, your sisters, your spouses, and everybody else. Even if you don't drink it, buy it. Somebody drinks it somewhere, or just leave it in your room and let the aromas, you know, make you feel better. Maybe, you know, you can go to sleep and smell something nice and have dreams of happiness. I don't know. I wanted to say a little bit about having Latanya here, because it's great when we get the owners to come in and join us and get that sense of personhood, you know, and togetherness, where sometimes we don't. And we hope that everybody can see that we are here, you know, and we'll always be here. And it's a space for everybody to join us and come together. And I'm going to say it forever and it's going to get annoying, but I'm still going to do it. But that's something I wanted to do. We have, you know, great readers, of course, and Michael will get started and then we'll introduce our guest speaker as we go along. So sorry, Khadija, but you're going to have to marinate there for a little bit, but I think it'll be great. All right, let me send it back to Michael to officially get us started. And also, I always forget, nervousghostpress.com. You know, it's here, it's always sitting in front of me, and I always forget to, there's the ghost. Bloop. I always forget to bring it up, but this project has not only brought Chad, Michael, and I together. You know, I think some of the contributors we have will always be connected, and you'll all be connected with each other, and every guest speaker we have will be connected. And in the future, when we have future projects, we can come back and remember, hey, you know, during a horrible time in our lives and in the world, we found a way to bring some more beauty to the world and to our lives. And I think that is something that's fantastic. So, Michael.
All right. Showtime. First reader is Kamani Rose. She has spent her time working on narratives and poetic works where she could see herself and her experiences represented. She is also working on building her art collective created for and by women of color, Kamani Rose Creations. She describes her poetry as partly something for people to see themselves in, so they can affirm the feeling that they aren't alone in their emotions and experiences, and partly a vehicle for the transformative growth that we seek. Kamani, welcome.
Hi, y'all. I hope you can all hear me okay. But I only have 2 poems for you today, and this first one is part of our awesome anthology. I did forget my book, so that's fun. But this first poem is, I don't know, both of these poems work with memory in very specific ways, so I guess that's the thing to look out for in these 2 poems. So here's the first one. Turn around and we're sitting in your first room. We were the same kind of honest then, almost enough to reveal our hearts. The TV is Pandora blue light and the music playing hasn't been released yet. It's blue glow stick perfect, like the color you picked out for your son's 3rd birthday. In this home, he's mine and looks like me, but sounds like you. In laughter, he is yours, in shyness and mine in smile. His eyes dode earth green, yours. Big with the innocence you lost, or gave to your mother to hold, but she spent it on shitty weed and your stepdad's coke habit. You're so happy in this home because I am once again the keeper of your tenderness. Saturday morning domestic daydreams imprinted dinosaur pancakes in your nose. Chorus rings, "Good morning, Daddy," and you swear you almost hear it. This time, you don't have to ask me to hold love in the windows. Wake up. You held the phone tighter than your hopes that day, because we are separated by thousands of miles, and there is nothing I wouldn't do to add more. It's this life we stopped pretending, stopped acting like you could Rubik's Cube your sadness into something functional, something at least a little bit impressive, so you could do it in under 2 minutes. If you could do it in under 2 minutes. You blink and it's just me and you at the edge of the bed now. Our limbs can feel each other in the negative space between the absence of a together we knew. I wish I knew who I was writing about. I could call it you, but that was so long ago that I can't remember the look of it. All of my memories smell like cotton and eucalyptus when they're lying to me. I can't fully believe you weren't made in my imagination all along. But sometimes you rose to the occasion, entered dreamland and wore the clothes of your potential to our date night, lied to my face. Your reward was still me, sweet, dewy the way your dick likes. Tonight you remember how I fuck when I am loved. We've been fucking in reverse. More stranger with each power thrust. You have come so far inside me, it leaks from my neck and evaporates. The moment I was finally without you felt like euphoria. So that's the first one. And this second one I wrote in the same sort of vein. So it's a little bit shorter though. When I was sleepwalking, I looked for you in the closets and cabinets, underneath staircase and every garden stone. It wasn't till I woke up empty-handed did I remember. We move on to different homes now, so I cannot knock on the door to your heart and let myself in. I sleepwalked to a setting sun. Green flash comes and I'm awake and home again, no longer waiting on the horizon. Old houses, abandoned, and the memories are packed up and stored, save for nostalgia's inevitable sickness. Let it be years before I want to remember again. Let this caricature of intimacy evade me for a little while longer. Let me wander in this dream where I am kept softly, safely and loved tenderly like the first editions on your shelf, the ones touched only by you and the sun, you and the moon. I am laughing, begging to leave this show, this suffocating freedom of your arms. I've bathed in this intellect, decided it softened me the prettiest and chose to stay. Though I am afraid you'll let the water run cold and leave me shivering. No other choice but to harden at such sentiments from the ice strip on. It's worse that I'll fall for it. Relish those moments where you've turned hot. It's me again, special, ethereal, warmed and wanted for once, and then it's lukewarm, fades, chilled, and I am here again, cold, ready to get out, dry off, nearly standing when you allow me heat again. When I am no longer sleepwalking, you are gone, which is to say, when I wake up, you have never been here. I couldn't make it through the halfway down. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamani. Those are a couple great poems there. There is a line I wrote down from the first one, the very last line. The moment I was finally without you felt like euphoria. What a great line. That is a punch in the jugular for someone right there. So
yeah,
thank you.
Raw.
Thank you. It's your work is filled with emotion, and that's what all true poets do. They fill their work, immerse it with emotion. And I want to show everybody just real quick. This is another of Kamani's poem, A Word, and you can find it here in Writing for Life. So definitely get this if you haven't gotten it. Great book. This is our debut anthology. Check it out. So thanks again, Kamani. Our next reader is S.D. Leshan. And let me get back to my bio here. So S.D. Stewart has worked published in numerous literary magazines, including Measure, Kenyon Review, Phoebe, and Your Impossible Voice. His book of poems, Body Tapestries, from Dream Horse Press, was a winner of the Orphic Prize.
Thanks, Michael. Mike, you have great introduction. You just got a great introduction. Matthew, thanks for organizing this. You and Chad and Michael have great spirits and generous hearts, and I appreciate it. Matthew, since I last read, I got the book. I'm really excited. I love the book. It's great. I might have the shortest piece in this book. It's on page 46. It was longer, but like, pounds in the station at the Metro kind of got boiled down to this. It's kind of in the context of its writing was the Me Too movement, and it just goes like this. Then I'll read a couple of other poems too, or 2 or 3 little poems. After he'd finished, I felt smaller than a bruise. That's it. That's a serious poem, and the poems I've read in the last couple of readings have been pretty serious, but I've also been trying to read, to write some more, if not funny, at least lighter toned poems, even if they're about serious subjects. This is one called The Wreck of Captain Kiss. It's in the latest issue of the Gyroscope Review. It's in sections. 1. We could see Africa from the deck of our pirate ship as it broke up and sank, the result of a tsunami named Norm. Goodbye, said Nigeria. I'm sorry, although we knew she wasn't. We could tell you much of how to struggle when the earth stands up, spreads her legs, places her hands on her hips, and leans back before leaning forward to touch her elbows on her yoga mat. But we were so distracted listening to the hoots and penny whistles and the call and response of news on our blown up social media. I know, we need to turn the volume down, wise up, still our butts, but still. 2. A man in Manitoba died when a whirlwind of burning straw lifted his pickup truck and carried it 165 feet into a field of golden flax. Whenever this happens to you, my love, pretend you're a cuttlefish adrift on a heart of magma, swimming through the wake left by the sea's dreams. Any other advice should be taken twice a day after you've laced your fading sutures with honey. 3. Anger over Delhi's growing wild monkey population grew further after a man died after being struck in the head by a flower pot thrown by one of the rogue animals. It's too late now to undo your angst and anger settling like a mayor of lotus flowers into the river your tongue makes after you've been kissed. But still you can ingest the pure serene of your blood until your spine becomes breathless as a smile, wingless as a tick. And of course, whenever you're near Fire Island, you can look up into Frank O'Hara's sun. 4. A huge cloud of dust-laden wind from the Sahara blasted the eastern Mediterranean, blotting out the moon. The pole workers at the center of the earth were angry. When the light hurts your eyes this way, curl into a banana leaf and lay your eyelids shut around you. Never blot, always tap, and only appeal to your instincts for augury when you wear a bathrobe. Say forsooth to plaid, cry when Greenland melts, cut your lower lip on the serrated edge of a kiss. You're bound to stay radiant forever. And then I'll read 2 short little poems. I'm working on a series of poems in the voice of Pat Nixon. For you young'uns out there, she's a Melania to Richard Nixon. She had this, whenever you'd see her standing behind her man, she had this kind of bland, inscrutable look behind those kind of doughy, adoring eyes of Richard. I found her always kind of interesting. I wondered what she was really thinking. So here's what she was really thinking, I think. Pat Nixon in the confessional. My sister is a riverbed of church stones, the 12th commandment of the shards of gold feathers. I know all the soft disguises of angelic tears, the muzzle of the asteroid, the green mountains of the bees. Because the rain had dispersed its luminous heart into the dewdrops beside the slanted yew tree beyond my window, I heard the slenderest of her branches whimpering. What was I before the cherry tree ceased its bloom? I tell you, Dick was a dick before he was the Dick. Before my tongue was smooth as the sounds of water, my back rough as the ramparts of a caterpillar, I stored away my fumes of grit, my scaly sticks of need. Please give me back my bulge of shadow, my ache of slender, luminous truth. And this final poem is a haiku. Pat Nixon dreams of dancing in the strip club. I flinched when I'm touched. Is there ever blush enough to brush away my longing? Thank you so much, and thank you, Latanya and Jesse, for organizing this reading and being such gracious hosts to us. Really appreciate it. I look forward to going out there next time I'm in California.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm never gonna get over this. This is how your poem looks in the book, the first one that you read, and this is the true power of words on a page. The words just draw you in. So you're everybody in this book that's featured is great, and everybody who has contributed and spoken here on our virtual events have done wonderfully. You have a very inviting reading voice also. I just want to say that. So.
Thank you.
Our next, actually, I'm going to hand it over to Matt. Matt.
I forgot to hop on all quickly in there. You know, a lot of times when I'm here and I'm listening, I'm writing notes. I think I have my papers here, and things always pop in my head. And Stuart was speaking about seriousness in a lot of poems. And I noticed in a lot of what we write as writers, as storytellers, and in art and music, it's always heavy. There's a lot of heavy emotions. There's a lot of, darkness and sadness and anger and frustration. And I wanted to share that even though a lot of those are present in here and present in what we write about and what we share, what brings me happiness is that it's real. And it's real, and all of us are real. And Ghost Chat especially is real. As we all know, now we have proof. Where if you thought he was just, a figment of our imagination, he's a real person over there. Chad is not a ghost anymore. But what I'm trying to get to is that, when Chad and Michael and I, when we started this out, it was just a project. It was a dream we had. It was something we wanted to bring people together. And throughout the entire process of drafting it and formatting the pages and picking and reading through all these submissions and trying to choose and find what we felt was something that we can put together to bring people together, it wasn't real until it was. And I know that something that I was always stressed out about when I shipped out these books to the contributors and to everybody else was, what if it doesn't get there? And there's that anxiety between will it arrive and when doesn't it? And I tried to email them and figure it out, but then I felt kind of, annoying all the time. But the fact that Stuart received his, and Kimani has hers, and Annette has hers, and everybody has theirs, it makes it real to me, and it makes it really something that I can feel happy about. And I know Michael and Chad are happy about it. And even though the subject matter sometimes is very daunting and haunting, it makes me happy. And, maybe that's strange to say that these sad things make me happy, but you know what? They make me happy. And so to introduce our guest speaker, I would like to hand it back over to Michael, and then we'll be in for a treat here. So Michael.
Yes, sir. All right, our speaker today is Khadija Anderson. Khadija was born and raised in Altadena, and she has been published extensively online and in print journals and anthologies. She holds an MFA in creative writing through Antioch University, Los Angeles, and her first book of poetry, History of Bhutto, was published in 2012 by Writ Large Press. Her poem, Islam for Americans, was a Pushcart Prize nominee, and a chapbook, Cul-de-sac, An American Childhood, is forthcoming in 2020 from Ethel, a female-run press. Khadijah runs a monthly social justice themed poetry series, Poets and Allies for Resistance, in Pasadena, and her work can be found at khadijahanderson.com. Khadijah, it's your turn.
Hi, thank you. Wow, that was fun. I didn't know I was gonna get an introduction. Yeah, Cul-de-sac is out. And the sad thing is, like I was talking to I'm the poet laureate of Altadena right now with a co-poet laureate, Jessica Abogatas, who also just released a book. And we're like, it's so weird having a book come out and not be, well, like you guys know, you just have this beautiful anthology come out and, we're like, it's just a different situation. So yeah, thank you. I have run Poets and Allies for Resistance this is our 6th year. Before LaTanya owned the cafe, My Place, and she took us in and let us continue. We were there for 5 years before under the previous owners, and then she graciously let us continue our first Mondays at the cafe. And she's down the street, so I get to see her occasionally in person, but we haven't done a Poets and Allies there since, did we do it in March, LaTanya? I can't remember if it was February or March. I can't hear you. You're muted. Sorry, that was mean to do.
Yes, we did it in March, but that was our last go.
That was our last. Okay, so we've had several online since. We haven't done one every month, but we've had a few. And then through the Altadena Poet Laureate, every couple of months, we hold either a reading with an open mic or a writing workshop. So you could look for either of those on Facebook, Altadena Poet Laureate or Poets and Allies for Resistance are on Facebook. And yeah, this anthology is great. I actually got to read it, and a couple of people stood out to me. I was really happy to hear, oh my God, I'm blanking on her name. Kamani read her poems, because I really loved her poems. And another poet I really loved was Micah Tasaka. Their work was just really striking, and I liked the whole thing. It was a really nice anthology. I can tell how much work went into putting it together. It's no easy feat putting together an anthology. And so thank you. It was really beautiful. And I could read a small poem if you guys want me to. Is that okay? In the spirit of Poets and Allies for Resistance, Poets and Allies was put together, like I said, 6 years ago as a sort of a response and support for the Black Lives Matter movement. We only feature poets of color to feature, and we do an open mic, and when we're in person we give away books. And so this is a poem I wrote for Michael Brown. It's funny because I wrote this poem a few years ago and I can't remember. I was on a plane flying from somewhere back to Los Angeles, and we stopped in Missouri. I was like, Missouri? Oh my God, Missouri. So I wrote, but I can't for the life of me remember where I was flying from. Anyway, it's called Consider Missouri from Michael Brown, 2014, Ferguson, Missouri. We're about to land and the pilot says it's 97 degrees outside. I imagine muggy, unbreathable. I won't be getting off the plane to find out. I'm headed back to Los Angeles. I won't be visiting my cousins here, this place my grandmother called Missouri in her honeyed Arkansas drawl. That grandmother I loved, whose great uncles enslaved 40 people in Virginia. I look out the window and it looks like much of America, flat and homogeneous, unapologetic. That's it. So I will thank you all for the beautiful anthology, and hearing everybody's work is great. And I will mute myself. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Great imagery in there. The flat and homogeneous, unapologetic. It's yeah, very poignant today. Our next speaker, actually these next two speakers, I'm very excited about because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong and I apologize, but I don't think I've had the pleasure and the opportunity of hearing them speak in person yet. But the next one is Annette System. She lives in Nashville, Tennessee with her husband, dog, and hens. She's professor of English at Belmont University. When not grading papers, she bakes, travels, hikes, supports theater of all types, watches birds at the theaters, reads, writes, sings in a choir, and plays piano. A lot of stuff that I've never done, so kudos to you. And to her publications in 2019, she was published in Rockville Review, Nashville Review, Passenger Review, forthcoming Blue Mountain Review, Spank the Cart, and Hamilton Stone Review. Chapbook, A Casting Off, which was released in May 2019. And she has, her awards in 2019 include the winner for Porch Writers Collective Spring 2019 Poetry Prize and an honorable mention in Passenger Magazine's National Poetry Contest, which was in 2019 also. Annette?
Hi, can you hear me? I'm super honored to be in this anthology. It's my first anthology. I've been published in quite a lot of literary journals in the last couple of years, but first anthology project, and it was a very positive experience. I thank you all for including me, for inviting us and setting up these readings. I think this is amazing that in these COVID times, we're still finding ways to bring poetry to the world, and I just really appreciate that. I know there's been so much effort that you all have put into this, and I'm really grateful. I'm going to read some poems, and they start darker and they get lighter, but they're all sort of about surviving. The first one is the one that won that prize and was published in the Nashville Review, and it's about the last time I saw my mother before she passed away. And so I wrote this poem literally in the car. It was a very cold, very foggy, gray time. My daughter also lived in Indianapolis, and she was very sick. And so it was just a really difficult time. So I survived by writing this poem. Fog. How the gray-white high-rise diffuses into gray-white sky, the metal bones melding into cloud, as if the hard lines quietly thinned as the steel expanded into vapor. How my mother's body loosens its hold on earth and daylight, language and sense. How her hands that rise and jab at assailants in the blank air still reach for a tissue, placing the box back on the table's edge tenderly. How they wipe the rim of the bucket that contains the wretch of her dry heaves. How her wide eyes in the bones of her gray face fix themselves on me as she says my name, her thin voice wailing, sorry, sorry, sorry. How can she know this lament is my own? How can she reckon that her eldest daughter, the one she still remembers, would press her toward the precipice, already pictures her rising into mist, seamless like girders, glass, and sky, gray-white bones vanishing in fog. I know that's very heavy. The next poem was published in a magazine called One, and I felt so lucky because you only get to submit one poem, and they take it or they don't, but their rates of acceptance are not that high. So I was flabbergasted. This poem I wrote also to survive. My daughter, who I thought was going to live in Nashville, decided to move away for a time. She says she'll be coming back. And it was really hard. After she got back from college, I just thought she was going to live here because that's what she said. And then she changed her mind. And so I was trying to reconcile myself to that. So it's to her. Your desire, a loaded spring. Your eyes drift west. I feel the distance rise. The driveway cracks are widening. The sagging bookshelves undusted in your half-vacant bedroom. In the half-vacant bedroom that was yours. Did I tell you the vocal cords of sandhill cranes measure 5 feet, their bodies just 3? The cords coil like French horns, their stentorian bugles rattling for miles. Their bodies, lithe and strong-legged, ballerinas with scarlet turbans, seem hardly able to contain such freight, to emit such cries. And the corkscrews inside, the springs that propel their flight, wings unfurling as they leap, heads pumping low. Last May, I heard the sandhills call. As they launched, clamoring high above the marsh, becoming invisible, I saw your coiled body, your desire, a loaded spring. Your voice is the overture before the dancers' buoyant cabrioles, before the crane's sacramental journey to the Platte. The next poem I'm going to read was published in Rockvale Review. It was the first poem I ever had published. And it's called What Rope is For. And it was really about me trying to claim that I wanted to do poetry. Obviously, I mean, I'm a professor, I'm a Victorianist, and I've always been writing poetry sort of in the background, but not really making time for it until the last few years. And so I wrote this poem, and it was about, you know, when you really want something, but you're afraid to claim it. And so I think everyone can relate to that, whether you're trying to write or you're not. It's a little fantastical. What rope is for. If she lived in this world, no longer would she murmur about her appetite for Wyoming, rocks, feathers, an open hand, a conjuring. Her desire is flamingo, a train ticket to Aberdeen, the shiny midnight of Hollywood starlight on paper, and Wyoming. What she has is a campaign button, leftover bread crusts, a length of rope knotted in place, its other end circling. If she clutches its swing, perhaps abrading her idle hands, then she might ride the arc high, unfist her grip, hurl herself into the tall plains, ranging that wide horizon, filling herself with the glint of minerals, flash of kites, the sated life of rock and feather. And I have one more, and this is a COVID poem. So this is definitely about survival. I don't know about you, but I've had some crazy dreams. So this is sort of based on that. And also going back to teaching this fall. I was on sabbatical in the spring, so I didn't do that thing in the spring. So now we'll be doing online teaching. And so you see some anxiety there. My left eye. I wake to soreness, the left side of my head, face muscles, tender to eye squint and fluttering lid. No door jamb collision, no corner or post thwack the soft tissue over the thin bone where headaches skulk. Can dreams knock the sleeper about, kicking their way out? In one, I dance with my son on a cruise ship, me ball-gowned, him tuxedoed and dashing, turning me round a pivoting floor. In another, my daughter, quarantined, celebrates her birthday alone in a distant city, while the puppy escapes his leash, darts down the hill into dark woods. Students drift in and mostly out on my monitor, our mics perpetually muted, the day's text refusing to open, its pages invisibly sealed. I walk away, break for lunch. The gas stove's burner won't catch. Beyond the kitchen window, the puppy emerges from the trees on hind legs and wearing a bow tie. His front paw gestures me outside. My daughter appears, laughing, in a cotton floral shift, and they dance. She sweeps up the pup. He becomes an open laptop in her arms, my son's torso filling the screen. Wearing a white lab coat peppered with black specks I think might be ticks, he yells, the patient can't be saved, bemoaning collapsed lungs, absence of vacuum and tubes. The students muscle their way onto the screen, thrusting shut books against glass, spewing silent rage at my son, at one another, the whole world, me. My left eye twitches. Thank you so much. That was fun.
Big round of applause for you, Annette. Thanks for sharing that. Phenomenal poetic presence, first of all. I was as I was listening to you reading Your Desire, a Loaded Spring, which is one of my favorites in the anthology. I could really, hear how how you use your language. And then it clicked to me once you said that you're a Victorianist, that you've extensively studied the English language. And so this is
True.
great. The beautiful imagery, the line I want to read, the share one more time for everybody is the chords coil like French horns. And that's talking about the cranes. So thank you for that. Our last reader, but certainly not least, is Buddy Zapata. Buddy draws inspiration from New Orleans, blues, rock and roll, Zydeco, gypsy horns, and tribal beats. Blues and soul are simmering in his gumbo. He is a native of Whittier and East Los Angeles in California. He is a musician, a songwriter, and a father. Buddy?
Yep. Thank you. It's Zydeco, but I do like Zydeco because that's kind of like Art Deco. So maybe that's a new form of art, Zydeco. I like it. I'm going to go with it. Zydeco. Zydeco. Say it with me, Michael. Zydeco.
Zydeco.
You did it again. All right, we'll go with it. All right. It's funny. It says I'm from Whittier. Yeah, I am from Whittier, but I've lived in Pasadena, Altadena longer than that now. So I think I got to start saying I'm a resident of Altadena, right? And I've been here longer. So I'm a resident of Altadena. I'm a songwriter mostly. And the collision between poetry and songwriting might appear obvious to most, but they're two completely different arts. And I find poetry takes more work for me than in songwriting, because although they're both taking a rhythm and a cadence to prepare, there's just a whole different emotion going on with them, at least for me. I mean, other songwriter poets might say something different, but this is at least how I feel. I write short, and as Stuart said, he writes about serious subjects with humor, and I always try and include humor in it. It's just who I am. So I'm going to start with the piece that's in Writing for Life. I got lucky. I got the front row seat, page 1. That's where my poem is. I thank you guys for that. And it's my first published poem. I've never had anything published besides this. That's a great place to start. And Matt chose this one out of some poems I gave him. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ghost Chad. And this one's called Blue Rhino. Captured and relentless in his thoughts, the male rhino, gloriously blue, for reasons unbeknownst to most or some, is caught between a primordial ooze, slung oft and betwixt, thank you, Sonny Boy, a rock and a hard on. He waits for his mate to return from grass grazing, sunbathing, venture to Aristotle's meadow, so that he may presently find out where she placed the fly swatter. Thanks, guys. Now, I have 2 short ones. This one was a request by a friend of mine. I grew up in a very Catholic family, and because I was raised in a very Catholic family, I think it had more of a catapult of me getting out of a very Catholic life. And I wrote this one because a friend of mine invited me to church, and I was just seething. I just didn't want. I can't do it. I love that other people go. That's all good. I just don't do it well. So this one I write, it's called The Sermon. The sermon was supposed to last, or so I was told, in a wry but non-committal tone, 20 minutes at the most. So the 70s feathered haircut on the 70-something pastor veered into 5 times 20. Stuck in the front row, I thought, and forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Fuck this shit. Amen. Thank you. And this is the last one. I do a lot of traveling. Nobody does a lot of traveling anymore, right? I don't know how many, so many trips canceled. And I like venturing to 3 cities. I really love going to New Orleans, Chicago, and New York. And the part about Chicago I like is it's the big city. The architecture is amazing. It's fascinating. It's also the home of electric blues, but it's also right on the cusp of the Midwest, where it's a whole different, as you know, in Nashville. I'm from California, I'm from Los Angeles, and there's a different, not only lifestyle, but way of thinking. So when we could get together and talk about what's happening in America, it's not an easy discussion because we're all thinking something different based upon where we are in this country. And I just stop and always think about that. Oh, great, there's the phone. Hold on a second. I'm back.
Is he thing? Oh, wasn't it?
The guy got it, Matt. All right. So I remember sitting in a diner outside of Chicago in Plano, Illinois, and there were some guys sitting at a booth next to me talking about people in Los Angeles. I didn't reveal where I'm from, but I just listened. And I went and wrote this poem on the airplane on the way home. It's called Clown Logic. The clowns took a booth to discuss pathos and lies. People in California don't have a clue. Yeah, they work hard, but they don't have a clue. What happens in Sioux Falls, God and ego run deep out there, but they don't have a clue. No, we don't have a clue. That's it. I enjoyed everybody's poetry. I really did. Kanja, well, I'll have to come down on a Monday night to my place and hear you guys. Annette, thank you. Your poems were lovely. And Stuart, you were cracking me up. Being from Whittier, I always appreciate a good Nixon knock, The guys, Chad, good to have Chad here. Thanks, Chad. Michael, you hosted so eloquently. And Matt, thank you.
Thank you, buddy. I am going to have to take a listen to Zydeco. I love music too, and it's something that I'm not familiar with, so jump in there. And I just want to say that Blue Rhino, of course, kicks off our book, Writing for Life. So please get it. It's well worth the money. All right.
All right, thank you. Everybody, I want to say a few words before I open it up to Michael and Chad, and then open up our Q&A. So if you're watching, and for everybody here, ask questions to each other. This is what it's about, all of us coming together and sharing our art and learning and growing and taking whatever comes and turning it into something better. And Annette, I wanted to just to speak about a few of your works and the idea of survival and claiming our existence, especially how your first poem that won or was accepted was your claim as a writer. And on August 13th, I'm going to be sharing a few of my work. I know a lot of people have been asking me, and I'll share my first poem where I claimed myself as a writer, to say, you know what, I dropped out of whatever I was studying to pursue writing. And that was the moment I said, oh, well, maybe I made the right choice. And even though I'm always being pulled back, I always remember that day. And that was in 2013. We could talk about it, but it doesn't matter. And dreams, I have certainly crazy dreams all the time. I always text my friends about them, and walls of text, and it's weird. I'm half asleep, and so it doesn't make any sense, but then I forget anyways. But dreams are, I think it influences our writing, of course. And sometimes I'll paint something. If you're curious, that's where this came from. And where this painting is. It's not only on my wall, it's also on the cover of the book, available at www.nervousghostpress.com. And Buddy was talking about where we're from, you know, is huge. It's our identities. And I wanted to speak a little bit about where Nervous Ghost Press is from. And although we are based in Los Angeles in California, it was born in Oakland in the Bay Area. And next week, the 10th, the 13th, and the 15th of August, they're very kind of back-to-back events we have, because before the world changed, we were going to be up in the Bay Area, kind of a homecoming, and have our events at local businesses and bars that we went to and we frequented when we were there, when we were studying, when Michael and Chad and I were all in school together. And if something happened in our lives and we needed somewhere to go, hey, are you open? Can I get down here? And we would go and we would talk and we would express ourselves in maybe a way that didn't make sense in our, in our friend groups, but they were there. And My Place Cafe is somewhere local that does the same thing for our patrons, our customers, our friends, and our local community members. And so the Bay Area in California, it created Nervous Ghost Press, and without it, we wouldn't be here. So if you're from the Bay, if you're in California, make sure you tune in next week for those dates. And also, of course, to hear me, right? Because even though it's all about you, well, isn't it really all about me? It's some big thinking there. But I want to open it up to Michael and Chad to share a little bit about their experience in the Bay. And even though we've all moved, away, we're always drawn backwards. And I don't think the Bay, when I was there, I realized how big of an impact and influence on who I would become, and as far as this is concerned, until I left. And there hasn't been a year when I haven't gone back. And I'm going to figure out a way to get back there. I'll wear a hazmat suit if I need to, but, it's something that needs to be done. And so Michael and Chad, hop in.
Well, as someone from the Midwest, making it out to the Bay Area was, it's going to sound corny, but a lifelong dream. I had always considered myself kind of an outsider in the Midwest, and really didn't feel like I had a home per se here. And it wasn't until I found myself in California, in the Bay Area specifically, that I really felt like I had found a place not only I wanted to be, but just felt like I was meant to be. And it helped me in so many different ways. It helped me with my queer lifestyle. There were so many, I just never had the language to really identify who I was and identify my non-binary lifestyle. And I got to meet so many great artists, including Matt and Michael, and it was just a treat to take in all the culture and the history and everything about the place. And like Matt said, I try to make it out once a year since then. I was really hoping to make it out again this year, but like Matt said, maybe I'll just wear the hazmat suit and that'll be the way I get there. So yeah, I'm really excited for the next three events, and hopefully, work willing, I'll be able to make it to them and not be Ghost Chad, but be Ghost Chad.
Thanks so much, Ghost Chad. I really like that, by the way. It's a good nickname. This was a great event tonight, and I'm happy that we were able to talk about regionalism, because I think that that's a big value in writing. Being an aspiring filmmaker, there's usually more of just one setting or one region that is pushing out movies, which is usually Los Angeles. And I always try to encourage people in the Bay Area that I've met that have the same aspirations that I do to pursue those, to go into screenwriting and filmmaking, because there aren't enough voices in writing and filmmaking from the smaller communities or the cities that don't get heard of often. And anybody who has something to say, whether it is nonfiction, fiction, or poetry, please pick up your pen or go to your keyboard and start writing, because your voice does matter. And I actually wanted to talk about the Bay too. I actually, Chad and I have shared beers at Triple Rock Brewing, which is our next venue. And I am a native of East Bay. I was born in Guatemala, but I am a native of the East Bay. I grew up in Fremont. And I went to my mom's recently and I got these two photos that I wanted to share. One, this is us at a pumpkin patch. And those are the hills in the East Bay right there. I think that's probably Fremont, maybe near Mission Peak. And then this is my brother and I have no recollection of this, but we were on a ferry ride. There's the old Bay Bridge extension where Oakland used to be, or the Bay Bridge where Oakland used to be. It plays a huge role in my life. It is the reason that I went back up to Mills rather than staying in Southern California, where I moved from eventually. But Mills is great, Oakland is great, the Bay Area is great, writing is great. Y'all are great. So thanks.
Thank you, thank you. That reminds me of how one location can bring so many people together for a lifelong relationship and friendship and familial anything and partnership, obviously in business. And another thing that brings people together is this right here, Writing for Life. It brought 35 plus people together forever. And I like to joke around that, the sense of survival and shared trauma and how we work through it through our writing and through our art goes beyond anything else. And even though some may not want to hang out, well, guess what? Too bad, because you're together and some of you are face to face for the rest of eternity. And I think that's pretty cool. I wanted to remind everybody that My Place Cafe is open. Not like right now, but the doors are open. So go there, buy some coffee, say hello, make friends, and help our communities. That's why we have these events, and that's why we'll continue to have them no matter what, because that's what we're here, that's what we do. And that reminds me of a professor that I had during the last few years when things happen that change our lives and bring us all together, as artists, as writers, as painters, as musicians. It is what we do. And we take the heavy things and we turn it into something tangible and that we can process in a beautiful way. And so donate to My Place Cafe, help them continue to serve the community, drop by and buy some coffee. And with this, I will open it up for the Q&A. I have the first question for Ghost Chad, and it is, where are you? Someone asked me, where does Ghost Chad live? Because for the first month of our existence, Ghost Chad was just up here, and so they want to know, Ghost Chad, where are you?
Well, that question has been kind of difficult to answer over the last 4 years because I've been a little bit of everywhere. I've been in California, I've been in Indiana, back and forth, and then right now I'm living in Ohio, the Akron area. So that's where I reside right now.
Awesome.
Can I ask Ghost Chad a question?
Yes.
I'm from Indiana. Is that where you're from?
No, I'm originally from Akron, but I lived in Newcastle, Indiana for a while, out near Muncie. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a grandmother who lived in Muncie, but I'm from south of Indianapolis in the Greenwood area. So, but I've been in Nashville for 32 years. So, but my whole family's still up there. So I just wondered.
Where are you in Nashville?
I'm sorry?
What part of Nashville are you in?
I live on the south side of Nashville toward Brentwood, but still in Nashville.
I mentioned 3 cities, but I forgot to mention Nashville. I'm there once a year because my closest friend, we've been tight since we were 12, lives in Nashville.
Yeah, well, I wondered, since you're a songwriter, if you had any Nashville connections.
That's it, just him. That's just him. But I go out once a year just to go. He's family, so just go hang out with him. I love it out there. I really do. I just love America. I love traveling and seeing America.
I want COVID to be over. I love the West, but
see, yeah, I don't think there's anybody who doesn't want COVID to be over, right?
I missed 2 trips out west while I was on my sabbatical. I was really looking forward to them, and I just couldn't go.
I know. I missed a trip to Chicago. Every year, I take my students to Chicago for an architecture tour, and it's my first vacation of the summer break. So this year I was going to go to Chicago, then I was going to hit New York from there, and then I was going to go to New Orleans this coming November. None of it. So
You do the boat tour, the architecture tour in the boat in Chicago.
Oh, yeah,
Isn't that great?
So I wrote this song called Boat Ride. 30 years ago, I was in Chicago and I'm walking down the street, and they had barkers that were just ringing the bell and saying, boat ride, boat ride. And I just kept hearing it all day. Boat ride. I'm thinking, boat ride? Why would you want to see Chicago on a boat ride? Then I took the boat ride and it was like, wow, this is the thing. I mean, it really was, to use the term I like to say, it's really the shit. The boat ride is really the shit.
It is.
It was fun. So yeah, love that boat ride. Love Chicago.
All right, everybody, we're gonna say goodnight to Ghost Chad, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Wait, everybody else still good? We're just saying bye, Ghost Chad.
Thank you, Ghost Chad. Bye, Ghost Chad.
See ya.
And so I have another question, and we're happy to see Ghost Chad, and we're sad to not see Ghost Chad anymore. But a question for Stuart. Someone's asking a question for Stuart is, will you continue maybe, or if you have more, to write some short 6-word poems? And also I want to extend the question and ask what the process is like for those who are watching, whether you're writing a 6-word poem, a 6,000-word poem, maybe a story, or, is it difficult to get that same kind of energy and that passion into such a small work? So go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, the 6-word poem. I mean, the poem I have in the anthology. I was thinking about this form called hint fiction. These very, very short kind of pieces of work that suggest a larger narrative. I guess the most famous one is by Ernest Hemingway. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. And there's a whole kind of, it suggests this whole story and this pathos with that. And so I was thinking of that, and around the time of the Me Too movement was getting steam, I thought about how could you create a narrative that expresses some of the pain that victims were feeling, and it seemed to come out. It didn't work as a story so much, but lineating it seemed to work better as a poem. I think in fiction and the compression of poetry, there's the bound, genres get blurry. The boundaries of genre get blurry, as a lot of us know. Songs become poems, poems become short narratives, whatever, and so on and so forth. And spoken word becomes hip hop or whatever. And so, that's how that came about. So I've been working with longer. I've been working with different lengths of writing also, but sometimes the shortest, you can say most in the shortest amount of space, and it has more power, more compression. Like, you read Emily Dickinson, her poems have so much energy, they're almost popping out. Like a Whitman poem is all over the page, that's exploded already, but a Dickinson poem or poems like that are just kind of just almost glowing with their incandescence and their jittering energy. So I was trying to do something like that. That was the inspiration. Whether I came close, I'm not sure, but it's something that I'm challenged by.
Definitely. And the idea of power and I'm thinking of intent with our words, and every word has to matter. And I think today's event was really cool because we have a lot of educators here today. Yeah. And so I want to push this question to the educators. And when I work with students, and I always try to get them to really mean the words they say and not give me all that fluff, right? All that fluff we talk about where I don't care. I don't care what your cousin did yesterday. I want you to answer the prompt. And it's fun and it's cool to see their minds turn and everything change. And with writing with Annette and Buddy is how do you see a connection between the classroom and your creative outlets. And anybody else here who works with students or is in school or remembers from being in school, do you see kind of a connection there? And if you do, what is it? Is it horrible? Is it fun? Is it exciting? Or do you hate it? So that's my question.
You want to answer that first, Annette?
I'll say a few things. Well, what gets in the way is not the teaching or the working with students, it's the grading. That is the obstacle for me between having time to do creative work and working with students. But I mean, I think, you're always thinking about, your purpose and your audience and the kind of tone that you're trying to set, whether it's teaching students to write, an argument essay, or whether you're working on a poem like Stewart's that has 6 words? Is that it? And I hope you write some more Pat Nixon poems. Like, I'd like to see a chat because I thought that was fascinating. But anyway, I always feel like you get words on a page, and then the fun starts, because that's when you start chiseling, and sharpening. What am I trying to achieve here? And is this the best way to do it? And that's when the fine sculpting comes. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to teach my students to do, whatever kind of discourse they're writing. I actually don't teach creative writing, except in one class. I have a couple exercises where we do some creative stuff, but I'm not the creative writing faculty in my department. So, so I'm teaching them more to write essays and things like that. But it feels like it's of a piece to me. Unless they just absolutely hate writing, and then it's a struggle. But if they can see, getting the words out there, and then, well, what am I really trying to do here? And then how can I shave it, sculpt it, think about proportions, think about audience purpose, tone, feeling, and all those sorts of things, all those rhetorical things. But I try to teach them most of all to be attentive to language. They really need somebody to push them, I think, to be attentive to the language that they choose. Is that actually the words that express what you're trying to say, And so
maybe especially in today's time where language is so, right? You talk to a linguist and they'll say it's all acceptable. Mm-hmm. And yet sometimes when I hear the English language today, peppered with like and like, I forget where the conversation's going.
Yes.
And, because where is it going? Do you like, or do you like? Is it like this, or do you like something? Mm-hmm. Or is it just you're taking a breath and now your body's accepted that like is the reflex, right? I think with teaching, because I teach, but I don't teach creative writing. I teach architecture. And I mean, that's how I met Matt. And I'm constantly thinking about my art, even when I'm teaching. So I look for those little snippets all day long, something somebody says. And it'll like quickly get written down, over on the side, that little snippet that just a couple of words capture me. And I put it to the side, and the next morning is when I go to it. And I'll look at it and I'll think, I might have forgotten the context completely, but I still see it, and see if it'll take me to that next, where I could let that lead. So yeah, I'm constantly using teaching as some form of inspiration for writing. I find myself in my break just grabbing a piece of scrap paper and just scribbling, it could just be free form, just a flow, and something's going to come from it just from that day, because you have to write. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm sure it's the same. If you find you don't write for a few days, it's like, it's not like riding a bike. It's harder to come back to. So you just have to keep it going constantly. So I try to write something every day. Even a note to somebody, I'll make sure it has some kind of flurry of poetry to it. Even if it's just a note to my kids, to don't forget to leave me my stuff. So
There's a
Yeah,
famous
totally. And
there's a famous jazz drummer. I can't remember his name, but he said, "For every day you ignore your art will ignore you."
are
3
you right? Yeah. Don't you feel that?
Yeah.
Many times, yeah.
always.
Especially, so this COVID, people ask me, well, how are you doing? And I hate to see just the nature of what's going on. But personally, my art has just flourished because I have so much time by myself. If I'm not during spring, I was teaching. If I wasn't teaching, I was working on my art. What else was there to do? So I'm making sure I constantly do that. Work on the art, do my other work.
Question for you, buddy. Since you said you're an architecture professor, okay, you said you're an architecture professor, right, buddy?
Yes.
But yeah,
How was it like teaching those kind of classes on Zoom? That's what I'm most curious about. It's very hands-on.
it's a challenge, to say the least. It's a big challenge. Everybody has a different way of doing it. I cheat. I have students who are really having trouble meet me at the park, and I'll sit down, socially distanced with masks on, and help them out. I mean, I think just about anything you teach, one-on-one is required. Teaching is a social experience. Even if you're a professor, I don't know how many students do you have, Annette, or Stuart, do you teach also?
Yeah,
So
I teach at High State, yeah.
how many, I don't know how many students you have on average, but I could have from 20 to 8.
Wow.
And so it's real one-on-one. It's real social. It's a social experience. You get to, as you guys do, you get to know your students. Matt, I know Matt teaches as well, and you do too. So there's 5 teachers here. And it's
I have 90 to 100 students every semester.
Oh my God.
it's still a social experience though, right?
Yeah. Oh, it surely is, but
Yeah, it's still teaching architecture. I've got to get one-on-one with the students I see who need it, and I'll make the effort. Meet me at the park, meet me in the parking lot at Target.
Yeah.
We'll discuss it on the hood of my car. I've done that.
Wow. That's a commitment.
I think when you get into teaching, there's some teachers that don't care, but they're minimal. And
That's
then teachers who really care. And teachers from elementary school up to college professors will tend to put in that extra time.
yes.
At least that's what I've noticed. The teachers that matter to me, the professors that matter to me, were putting in extra time.
Yes, of course. That is the truth. For the question about the students, since I am elementary, I always approach the creative writing part from getting the kids to do a morning journal. And in the beginning, they really fight you. But then as the year progresses and you're much more busy with so many things to do, and you have a tendency to push the morning journal away, then they desire it. So that was what I found. I taught 5th grade for most of my career. So the kids were a little bit more in touch with their feelings and kind of needing that outlet. So, and they would allow me to sometimes comment on some things, and they would share their journal, because I told them it could be a personal journal so that they didn't have to feel that what they wrote would be judged. So I just found that really to be interesting, because I never was a poetry teacher, or you know what I'm saying. I was just more the grammar, teaching you the basics of how to write your 5-paragraph essay, and but I just wanted to share that it is a start for people who have that creative side, to be able to start getting their feelings on paper. And the story in the anthology, because I really enjoyed it, I want you to compliment all of the people who are included in this. But one poem in particular was that The Writing Saved My Life.
right.
How Writing Probably Saved My Life by Sally Kwan. So I thought that that was really, I mean, she was very precise with her words, and you could just imagine. And I guess I related to that piece because that's kind of what the kids in my class would kind of do, is get out what they were feeling frustrated about on the paper through the journal.
Definitely. And you know, it's really great that you mentioned that, because Sally is going to be with us on August 15th.
Oh,
And hopefully you are, because I just said it. So if you
Yeah.
change your mind, that's going to be embarrassing for both of us. And also what you said about having a creative aspect, and even if you aren't in a traditionally creative field, I started out in architecture, and people think of architects as I wouldn't say necessarily creative, like engineers, and we have all of that, and buddies over there giving me faces. But the point is that my time in architecture, and when I was taking calculus and all of these other classes, it did inform my writing, and it informed it in a way where when I was drafting, I was precise and I was intentional and I was purposeful with every line that went on my paper. And in poetry, I'm intentional and purposeful with every line on my paper. And it mirrors it in such a way. And when I was in math and I was problem solving and I was critically thinking of how to solve this equation, I wasn't looking at numbers, I was looking at language and thinking through numbers. And with my writing, and what I try to express to my students who hate reading and hate writing, I hated it too. I couldn't read that well growing up. I couldn't speak that well. I was made fun of. And that's probably why I went into English and into a language field. And I showed them that, hey, you know what? Just, do it, because you'll find a way that you love it, and you'll make it work. If you don't like the story that we're reading, maybe you like the way the author's words, or the way they write, or their approach to the page. And there are ways that we can figure it out. And I think that's really cool, because it reminds me of those math classes where maybe I hated this book, but I need to figure out how to like it. And that's my equation, or that's my proof, or that's my whatever it is. And I think it's really cool that we have so many educators here who also are creative, and are creative in different genres and fields, and yet we're together.
yeah.
I keep going back to that togetherness is huge. And so before I get to my next question that someone had posted on YouTube, I want to ask LaTanya a question. And you don't have to answer it, of course, but it's more of, how do you feel about the community, and the sense of the need that we need to keep coming together? And then Michael can chime in too, because he's been working with me since the entire birth of this and everything else. And so I'd like to know, what can we do, because maybe we can't have events of 35, 75, 100 people, but we have this.
Yes.
And how can we take this further and bigger, and to take it further, but bring it closer, I guess, so.
Well, I think that this venue of how you are presenting it is really so awesome. I think that, I am a huge community person, just by the motto of my place, make my place your place. So that is our motto. So I really believe that we have to stay connected, because as human beings, that is the human experience. And even if you don't always get along, but those kind of interactions make you think, you know what I'm saying? Because if you're only always around like-minded people, it doesn't cause you to necessarily grow. It's the people that I've met in my life who have challenged my thinking, not necessarily to have to agree with them, but to constantly grow and to see other perspectives. Because as an educator, you can sometimes get into thinking that you know a lot, but you always can learn more. So what I get from the community is that by having these kind of interactions and people sharing their feelings and getting emotions out, it makes for a healthier environment, but it also makes for conversation and the human connection. And I think that that's really important. I love this idea of being on YouTube and connecting people from other states. I think that that is wonderful. I love the idea that, you know, even for your college class, once school starts back, maybe we could have the students on here and we'll have a night where, you know, we can hear how they feel being the age that they are growing up through COVID and how they have had to deal with it. I have a 22-year-old daughter who was expressing to me about how dating, you know, she's very concerned about how she will find a mate and how, you know, will she get to a point of feeling comfortable because she's so scared. But at the same time, this is the peak of her life. She's graduated from college and now she thought, now I've been so good. I finished college in 4 years and I'm gonna get to date now and go to parties, or you know what I'm saying, just began to enjoy her 20s, but now she's stuck in the house. So, and very afraid of how to navigate COVID. So that's a whole nother social and emotional thing that maybe poetry could be an outlet. You know what I'm saying? Like for those personal, private emotions that she may not want to share with the mom. And so,
Definitely. Yeah, and you know, I remember my 20s, however long ago those were.
yeah,
And but no, something you said that's very important is that dialogue and opening up a conversation. And that's what I think we spoke about almost in all of these events, is that dialogue. And you have that conversation, because how are you going to learn about somebody if you don't have a conversation? And to do so in a way that's so, I think, intimate in writing and in other arts is one of the best ways. It's vulnerable, certainly. And, you know, Michael can attest to this, but, you know, also being a writer and understanding how having these conversations. And, you know, when we have ideas here at Nervous Ghost Press, unless we talk about it, you know, maybe one of us doesn't like it, but we, you know, we talk about it, we figure it out, and we're pretty much on the same page, which is, I think it's fantastic.
yes.
But yeah, you know, that dialogue is so important, and I always advocate for it, and I know Michael does, and that's why we're here. So, you know, Michael, what do you have to say?
Yeah, no, I just want to say first, for Latanya, what you were saying about growth and, you know, people who are challenging you, whether or not you agree with them, whether or not you take their advice, having that is important. You can't surround yourself with like-minded people and think that you're going to get the place that you are wanting to get to. You have to make yourself vulnerable. You have to open up that dialogue to things that will make you uncomfortable. And that's how you grow. And that's what writers do. That's what we go to school, we go to conferences, we talk to other writers and go to other writers groups for that. Not so we can get positive reinforcement every single time, but so we can get the feedback that we need. It challenges us to grow and expand.
Yes.
And then going to the Nervous Ghost aspect of it, these shows that we do, I think, are very beneficial. Even though this isn't what we had originally planned, this is it now. But even when COVID ends and we do go back to our normal everyday life, meeting in person, meeting at venues, and doing poetry events like this in person, I don't want to see this video portion end. I want to stay on YouTube. I want to have maybe like once a week or once a month an open forum where we can come together again and we can talk about poetry for an hour to 2 hours, because it's a lot easier for people like us who are all spread out around the nation to come and take advantage of this.
Yeah.
What we need to do.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, because you get to connect with people that you would never have the opportunity to meet. So I appreciate that.
You know, what Latoya, what Tanya was saying as you go forward, it made something, it just, you know, reminds me of kind of when I used to hang out at Beyond Baroque in Venice, California in my younger days, when we had like a headliner reading, but open reading afterwards. You might want to, you know, for like, there are a lot of people for whom you know, this anthology, Writing for Life, you know, poems that save your life. You have the headliners like Annette or Buddy, but then maybe open it up to have an open reading where anybody can sort of, you know, I don't know how you would do that on Zoom or on the YouTube, you know, live streaming or whatever, but have an open reading. So like someone like Latanya's daughter could like read some poems or something like that, or Jesse or somebody, you know, who's not in the anthology, but also writing for their life, to save their life.
Definitely. And, you know, that's something that, and then Buddy can jump in too, because I always like hearing Buddy speak. This is my personal anecdote, but, you know, having these virtual venues and virtual events is something that, even though at first we were kind of hesitant because we wanted to be in person we didn't want to do this, it turned into something far greater, I think, than we could have imagined, because not only can we bring people together from other states but other countries, and we could bring people together who you know couldn't get to My Place Cafe, and now they can. Or maybe some, you know, if they don't feel comfortable leaving, or if they, you know, wherever their life is that they couldn't be there in person, well, now they can be there in person. And this could be a way where we can take something negative and turn it, and not only into a positive, but turn it into something of growth. And I think that's really cool. And so, yeah, Buddy, I want to see what you got.
What? What do I got? What are you talking about?
Buddy, I have a question for you. Where can we hear your music?
You could find it on all the music sources, all the streaming sources under Buddy Zapata. You'll find it. It's there. You know, the sad thing about YouTube, people will film you while you're performing, and you don't get to approve it or clear it. So it may not be the best performance or the best view, and that's just kind of the sucky part of seeing somebody with their phone up while you're playing. You know, man, you never know what's going to land up going on there.
Right.
But the music, there's one album out. There's there's something. Okay, I mean, it's not my music, but I'm playing guitar on a Mose Allison tribute album that came out on Fat Possum Records last year, towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
And I'm on that, just playing guitar, backing up another great songwriter, poet named Peter Case. But I have an album. There's one album out called Turo. There's more. There's stuff out there. It's on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stuart.
Awesome.
So you mentioned what's the name of the place? And you just said it, and it slipped my mind.
Beyond Baroque.
No, in Venice.
Beyond Baroque.
Yeah, Beyond Baroque. My kids just heard about that recently. They said, "Oh, you know, we were at Beyond Baroque." I think, wow, Beyond Baroque. I haven't heard about Beyond Baroque in years. And that's a great place where a lot of great poets came out.
Sure.
Like Jim Morrison was doing his poetry reading there. I know the members of, there's a band in LA called X. I know the members.
Right, John Doe. Yeah, I remember Axel Cervanka and John Doe when I was going there. They were starting out. Yeah.
Right. So there was just a video just released, an X video for their new album called Alphabet Land. And my kids play X 40 years ago. So they're playing a young Billy Zoom and young John Doe, and they had to go to Beyond Baroque and film part of it at the front doors. Yeah. That's what they're telling me about Beyond Baroque. Yeah, that would be a great place to do this when this is all done. Go to Beyond Baroque. It's historically meant, it's the place of poetry.
Definitely.
I would love to hit it if I knew you guys were going to be in another city. You know, get a ticket and go see what it's like to read the poetry somewhere else.
Yeah, totally. That's that was the plan, and it will be the plan still.
Go on.
I don't know. I was gonna open up the last question, but you jump in before I do that.
Do it.
All right. So the last question for everybody, and maybe everybody, if not everybody, wants to chime in, but it's kind of a heavy question. It's, you know, Amanda asked us on YouTube is, what aspect of your life or of life in general of others do you find the hardest and the most difficult to write about? And well, I can share first, just because I'm already talking, right? But the things that I think I find difficult to write about are also what I find difficult to talk about. And because I don't talk about certain subjects, whether it's personal experiences, sadness, disappointment, or things like that in person, for the same reason I don't write about them in private. And that's because I don't want to see it. Maybe you don't want to hear it come out of your face. Sometimes you don't want to see it come out of your hands. And speaking about what Buddy said earlier about, we have to write, and what Stuart said, if you don't write, or, sometimes the art loses you. And I wrote my newest poem, I think 2 days ago. It was at 4:00 in the morning. I had this idea in my brain, and then I just had to get up and walk over and write it. And I couldn't go to sleep until I did. And I think it was something that I don't necessarily like talking about, but I had to write about it. And I think sometimes that the dislike gets overwhelmed and overshadowed and crushed by the need to actually just do it and to get it out of our bodies. And so there's something healthy about it, and something scary but also fulfilling. And I think maybe some of you also have a similar experience, but I'd love to hear it, and everybody else would. Obviously, the one who asked the question would love to hear it. So I'm gonna open it up.
I have a hard time writing about loved ones who had passed.
Yeah.
You have all these emotions, and we just heard that beautiful poem Annette wrote about her mom. But it took me about 5 years to I wanted to write a song about my mother's passing, but it just was never right. It wasn't, for lack of a better word, it wasn't honest. It was forced and not honest. And I think it's Bob Dylan who was once quoted, or maybe it's Neil Young. They were asked about their songwriting, and I think it comes through in poetry also. Sometimes you're just a transmitter. You're like a transistor radio, and the waves are just coming through vapor, and they come out, and you just start, and it hits, and you know what you're writing about, and it just keeps moving. That pen, or however you do it, whether you're at the keyboard or by rote. And that's what finally happened for me. One day, this line hit me. I thought, now, and I sat down and started writing it, and it was the best. And instead of hitting it from, this very sad, almost morose feeling I had, it actually came out as a real, joyous bounce. And it was the right thing to do. So that's usually what's the toughest to force out.
That's a great point. I mean, Annette's poem was so impressive, not just because it was about her mother, but it's so carefully written and so carefully crafted. You just tell how she'd weighed each syllable, each word. But yeah, when you're too close to a subject, I find that really hard too. And maybe that's why I kind of create characters like Pat Nixon or whoever, and write through them, because you can get it some of the times with those emotions through creating this persona.
Yeah.
A lot of my writing does come out of personal emotion. I often don't write directly about the thing, though. But what I am no good at, I haven't figured out how to do, is write poems that actually matter when I'm being I don't know. I know that all poems matter. Like, people lose their parents, and writing a poem like Fog might help somebody else think about it. For me, that was like the craft of that poem was like me going over and over and over it, trying to put it in a place where I could grasp it. But things like, politics and Black Lives Matter and things that I'm thinking about, and my privilege and all kinds of things like that. when I try to write about them, they're disasters most of the time. And even when I get close, they're like, I wrote one about being white and what that means. And I got close, and yet there was so much room for misunderstanding what I was saying, I think, because my poems tend to be very imagistic. That carries a lot of the meaning of my poems. And that's dangerous if you're trying to say political stuff, because the ambiguity isn't necessarily a good thing there, because what you're trying to say could be vastly misunderstood. So I got close on that one, but usually they're just trite, or they're didactic, or I don't know, they're not good.
Try
And
to not be self-indulgent when you write about
Right.
I would like to be able to write it. I see other people do it admirably, and I'm like, I don't know. I haven't figured out how I can do that, how I can write about social issues and political ideas and so forth. So.
Great answers. I think, and then Michael come in here before I send us home. I think those were great answers, showing us who's behind the work, because sometimes whether it's a finished painting or a product, it's hard to see what went into it, especially because as writers we'll have a 30,000 page something, or a 1,000 word poem, and then the final product is 5 words or 2 words or a few sentences. And it's really nice to see everything that goes into the wood chipper, and then just one little sawdust comes out. But Michael, jump in, and then I'll send us home.
Yeah, I love listening to you guys. You are established writers, and I have some published material too, and I'm proud to be part of this anthology with Matt. But you guys have years under your belt, and it's just being able to hear you like this. Like, I don't think I would have been able to get this experience if we were at a live event and you were up on stage. Maybe we chat about something that you had mentioned in one of your poems, but I don't get to hear this from you. This is very personal. This is the stuff that I want to hear and that I need to hear. And I think a lot of viewers, especially of my generation, can attest to that too, is that this is what we need right now. And I thank you for sharing everything of that. For my writing, the most difficult material that I have to get through, I think, is usually like certain past experiences where I can't validate the truth of that experience. If I'm writing something like nonfiction, I know nonfiction, there's a lot of room for exaggeration. Sometimes you can input different dialogue. You don't always have the memory down 100%. But writing nonfiction for me is a struggle, because I don't know when to bend the line, or when to blur the line between the actuality, the fact, and anything that I am embellishing or adding to make that piece more readable, I guess. And so that's really my only. Other than that, there aren't I don't have trouble writing about society or politics or grief or anything like that. Not that I necessarily foray into it too much, but yeah. So that's my take on that. And also, Matt, before we go, I just want to give it over to my place, Latanya and Jesse. If you have anything to add, last comments on yours, if you wanted to take it.
Well, Jesse wanted to share something.
Oh no, I
Thank
mean,
you.
probably too late. No, I was gonna say earlier when you were asking that question, Matt, was that I just recently joined the writing group, and one of the prompts that they asked us was write a 100-word story about where you on your body do you feel embarrassment, and not many people wrote about that. Like, for one, like, who's gonna want to actually openly talk about that? So yeah.
But the hardest stuff is probably sometimes, like grief. But the thing that I was once told, and that the most embarrassing thing is, and you could put it on paper, is probably the most successful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could get that vulnerable part out there. The most vulnerable part is going to be the most revealing and also most entertaining or the most well accepted. You know, because it is entertainment.
Yeah.
And but it's also, you know, truth, and it's you know, a lot of, you're revealing. I mean, so I'm revealing. Somebody told me the only thing I ever reveal is that I'm a smartass, and and maybe that's truth. Probably is truth, but you know, you look at something small, you know, you can see I'm paying attention to the booth behind me, and it affects me, or you know, how I feel about church, and just, you know, it's revealing, and I think that's when it becomes the most, you know, you put out there, you're vulnerable.
All right.
Totally. Yeah, that
I want to say thank you. This was a really great experience, and I'll definitely be hopping back on when it is not our turn. And buddy, I'll be looking for you. I'm originally from the south side of Chicago. That's where I grew up. So we have another thing in common. And the last thing I'm going to say about New Orleans is that my daughter graduated from Tulane.
Lame.
So we have a lot of similarities. So I'll look forward to meeting you, and you'll have no excuse because you're right down the street.
You'll see me sooner than you can expect.
fantastic. So I want to remind everybody that My Place Cafe and Latanya, thank you again for being here, and to donate and to drop by and buy some coffee.
Yes.
You know, stay together, stay connected, and stay connected with us. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, of course. www.nervousghostpress.com. And our next event, we're traveling up to the Bay Area. We're going to be in Berkeley at Triple Rock Brewing Co., where Chad and Michael had shared some beers. That was the plan. You know, I was going to go up there and share some beers with them and with all of you and everybody else. But we'll be there. We'll be in Berkeley, and then we'll be in Oakland. And I'll share some work. We'll have some local Bay Area poets and writers share some work, and it'll be pretty much a homecoming for Nervous Ghost Press, something that I think is very exciting, something we could all enjoy and come together. And so, again, I would like to thank all of the performers, all of the readers, all the contributors, all the viewers, all our friends, everybody who supports the book and the projects, and Latanya, and all of our future anybody's. And of course, if you're watching, and if you watch while this is on YouTube and we upload it tonight or tomorrow, email us, join us, come together. We'll love to have you. And so good night and good morning, depending on where you are. Good afternoon. And it's good to see everybody. Happy to be there, and we'll see you on August 10th.